seeing the same thing you're seeing. Well, that's weird. Maybe it's a helicopter. Then it flew over us very, very quickly and blinded me. And at the time, we had our radio on. The radio went freaky, totally freaky, and then it seemed like a couple of split seconds. We were out there at about 12 o'clock, and then when we went back in to the house, at the time, my father was like, well, what took you guys so long? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, we thought it was 12:15, 12:20. So we lost at least 2 or 3 hours sitting there and had no idea what happened.
Oh, my word. Yeah, that's a typical story that we hear on the UFOI team all the time. Now, this was when you were young. You were a teenager at the time?
19, yep.
Yeah, 19. And, of course, you were there. Well, here's a critical question, Chris. This happens quite often, but your friend that you were, good buddies with at the time or whatever, did you guys remain good friends after that?
We did for several years. We haven't talked that much now. He went out and joined the Coast Guard, and now he's a part of CIA ops, so he spends a lot of time overseas. But we remained friends for a little while. Yeah, we remained friends for a little while. He doesn't talk about the situation anymore. I think I talked to him about a year ago. We used to talk about it all the time, that one experience we had, but he doesn't even really speak of it anymore, to be honest with you. It's kind of in the back of his mind. If you mention it, he's like, well, I'd prefer not talking about that. I know too much now.
Oh, well, that's an interesting perspective there, because I've never heard someone have a experience as a youth and then go into, for instance, black ops or any kind of a special forces and then go, oh, well, I don't want to talk about it any longer. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he doesn't really speak much on it. But again, even after that incident, I can remember, because my dad was fascinated with UFOs for years, partially because he actually worked in Vietnam, and then he retired from the military after about 14 years and then went into electronics. But he spent some time at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base when they were doing some unusual testing and so forth. So he's always been fascinated with UFOs. We would sit outside of our own house at one point up here, and you'd watch little lights in the sky playing with each other with different colors. They'd fly around. One would fly up, one would fly down, one would fly left, one would fly right. Then they'd take off just out of the blues and totally disappear, almost as if it was as fast as the speed of light. So We've seen all kinds of strange things in the skies in Ohio from one point or another. It seems like it died down, and you don't see it nearly as much within the past 20 or 25 years or so, but every now and then you still hear of an unusual UFO occurrence or a group of people that have seen something driving by on the freeway or something along those lines that pops up.
Yeah. Yeah, it does go in waves, basically, for sure. One of my... I am a lawyer, and I do help paranormal organizations. For the last 30 years, I've been kind of doing some legal work for various organizations. And one of them is the National UFO Reporting Center with Peter Davenport. I've been his attorney for the last 23 years. He says that, these things probably are seen more often than are reported, obviously. He believes that it's very difficult to get people to actually sit down, write out a little report, and put it on his website, the National UFO Reporting Center. But his concern is that he thinks it's maybe even only 1 in 10,000 sightings are actually reported to his agency. He thinks it's prevalent out there, but they do go in waves. And currently, he was saying that the current thing that's kind of the hot topic nowadays are these orange fireballs that people keep witnessing. They don't hit the ground necessarily. They just streak across the sky. Yeah,
we had one of those actually here over last summer, I do believe, that was very witnessable. And of course, it was written off. They said that it was satellite disturbance or so forth, but it literally looked like World War II was about to begin. It was a nice, bright red ball that dissipated coming down, and it looked like somebody had literally launched a missile or something, and it was coming down from the sky and was about to hit, and we were going to have a nuclear war.
And that would be kind of scary.
Yeah, and we watched it I think we sat there and watched it. In fact, I might have a film of it. If I do, I'd be glad to send it to you guys. I can't remember if I kept the camera footage or not. I might have recorded over it by now, as stupid as that seems, because they wrote it off as, well, it was a satellite burning up, don't worry about it. But staring at it, you were like, did somebody just launch a bomb and we're all about to die?
So this is something that you actually filmed yourself. This wasn't something you just saw on the news and recorded.
No, it's something that we saw. I was at a flea market at the time because my buddy does flea marketing, and I was I had some stuff, and I brought it up to him and said, "Hey, if you want to sell this, go ahead. It's been sitting in my garage forever." And then my little girl actually was the one that pointed it out. She said, "Dad, what's that?" And I said, "Huh." And then as it started to get closer, it started to get brighter. It had an after trail that was coming from it a little bit, and it was a bright red for a while, and then everybody just started staring at it going, well, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea what it is.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Matter of fact, I'll tell a real quick story. We were just up in a small community in the North Cascades this last weekend doing some filming and UFO investigation. And a very similar story where a young girl, probably about 10 years old, tells her dad, "Hey, Dad, what's that?" He looks up, and this was not, probably, it didn't happen at the time we were there, but maybe about 2 months before we arrived. He says he sees this orange fireball streaking horizontally across the night sky. Actually, it was dusk. It wasn't even dark out yet. And it had a small trail behind it, and it was not much more than treetop level. And then to his astonishment, before the orange object left the area or disappeared behind the tree line, these F-18 fighter jets, about 3 of them, were following this thing. And this was just a fascinating sighting that I saw, that I was thinking about, the idea that, someone could see something like that up close enough that it's that low, and then there's some kind of military presence involved in it as well. So who knows what that was?
Well, I think you'll probably see a lot of that with the, not to go into much detail, but of course this is why I got dismissed from my Department of Defense subcontract jobs. But with the disclosures that are coming out, I think you'll have a lot more conversations before it's over with. You'll find out that that some of the things that are going to be released confirm a few things. That, hey, look, I think the government sometimes is more in the dark than you guys are when you're out there researching, and that we know a few things too. I mean, I don't know personally that we know a few things, but I would guess, knowing what I know about the government and how we cover a lot of things up, and we do a lot of things that we do for the benefit of the nation, from what I'm told, that you're going to find some documents and you're going to find some releases somewhere along the line that date back years and years and years that state that, hey, look, we have no idea what it was either, but by God, we can't explain it.
I don't know. I think, I will say, we had Steve Bassett on, about 2 weeks ago on our show. He has a strong feeling the government's going to acknowledge UFOs this year.
I don't know if it'll be this year, but I do think they're going to acknowledge it. I don't think it's going to be straight up, yes, aliens are visiting us, but I do think they're going to say, yes, we do know that something else is out there that we can't explain. We know it didn't come from us. We know, according to all the confirmations from other people, it didn't come from them, so where did it come from?
Exactly.
All I can say was, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, well, I was just going to jump in there and mention, of course, that last December with this New York Times article that was published from the Department of Defense and the Pentagon confirming the existence of UFOs, but they actually included these gun camera footages of these FA-18 fighter jets off of the Nimitz aircraft carrier. And that was, you're right, Chris, it was not current. It was probably about 2012 when these pilots actually recorded the famous Tic Tac UFO and other things that they cannot explain. So I think slowly but surely this disclosure is happening.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there that really does know and has really been in contact with something. I mean, we're getting to the point with society where I think we can accept that. There'll always be the people that are scared, the people that want to confront it, and the people that don't want to believe it. But there's more people these days that just simply want the answers. They're searching a little bit more deeply these days into the paranormal in general, and they just want the answers. They want the truth. They want to know, specific things. Hey, look, do we know whether we're the only people out there or not? And I think it's naive for anybody to think that we're the only intelligent beings in a vastness of a universe, thousands of universes. There's got to be something else that's more intelligent than us, or at least as intelligent as us.
Well, I got a feeling they're way more intelligent. You know, I kind of really find strange, too, Michael, like I told you before and said on my show, it was funny, after that came out in November, then you had, a month or so later, or 2 months later, the Secretary of the Air Force, addressing the cadets and saying, well, the next war is not going to be a ground war. The next war is going to be out in outer space. When that happened, I kind of blew that off. I didn't really think anything of it. Then we had our President Trump, back a few months ago, jokingly said, I'm going to create a space force. And then, boom, last month he, directs the Pentagon to start it's up to Congress to, I guess, fund it, but, to create a space force, which, even I asked that with Stephen Bassett, and he feels the same thing. We already have one. They're just trying to, cover it up by saying that we're creating one now. I don't know. It makes me wonder. You can look at it two different things. Maybe if there is aliens, they might not be the friendly, furry type, which some people say they are. You don't know. Maybe our government knows something that they don't want to divulge to us. Maybe it could be the worst horror movie reality show ever to exist.
Well, and you got to look at it from two aspects. Even if we don't know whether aliens exist or not, the statement as an example from the Air Force, and I would know several Department of Defense individuals that would probably agree with this too. Reality is space is the next frontier, and reality is as space advances into the next frontier, that is going to be our next war front. People are going to be fighting for the minerals, people are going to be fighting for the planets, and people are going to be fighting whatever else is out there. So it's logical for us to advance to the point to where we're going to have to prepare for that. I don't think that we're advanced enough from what I have witnessed to physically be able to create a spacecraft that can travel beyond our galaxy. But who knows? Maybe we know somebody or something else that is.
Well, maybe some of the stuff that you heard on the old Art Bell shows, about back engineering UFOs years ago, maybe was real. I don't know. That's the whole point. We don't know. But, again, I stress that some of the guests I've had on my show, everybody's just like Bigfoot. They're big, furry, warm, loving animals. Aliens, they're here to protect us. We don't know that. I mentioned this before, right? We eat everything on this planet. Even our best friend, dog. I mean, we eat everything that's below human. And I take that back. If you go into, some parts of this world, they still eat humans. So how can I say it? They might look at us nothing more than how we look at that burger at Burger King or McDonald's. They might look
cattle.
at us as cattle. And you know what?
Cattle, in a lot of ways, or a zoo.
Put it this way, or a zoo. But look at it this way. If somebody is capable to come here and travel from another universe to our planet, that means we are like, I hate to say it, we're like cavemen. Or even dumber. I mean,
in a lot of ways, I have that conversation a lot of times. You have to think of it this way. When you think about aliens and you think about visitation. Now, there's two ways to think of it, and the first way is the logical way that I do think of it a lot of times, and that is, if something is that advanced, is it truly going to just come up and fly in our sky and look at you and go, neener, neener, neener? Where's the logic in it when they could swat us like a fly? Well, now you look at it the logistical way, and I had a alien theologist, and I had a very in-depth conversation about this.